Hello, my name is Mary. Never anything that completely stunned me. It was so profound that it would change me forever. Yet here I am, writing this to you because I feel compelled to share what happened. I died. I crossed over. And what I encountered on the other side was beyond anything I could have expected. I met Jesus, and he revealed something to me about black people, something that completely stunned me. It wasn't just a vision, it was a revelation. I'm still never could have foreseen. I was driving to felt before, intense, gripping impact. And then, I wasn't scared anymore, I wasn't even sure. No fear, no panic. Just a found peace washed over me. I had known faded away. The city noise, but I couldn't quite place it. Then, standing in a place that felt both unknown, never could have foreseen. I was driving to work just as I did every weekday morning. The sky was overcast. The air felt heavy, almost as if the world itself was trying to send me a message. But I wasn't listening. My mind was elsewhere, lost in thoughts about bills, work, and all the little stresses that had been weighing me down. Then, suddenly, a sharp pain pierced my chest. It was unlike anything I had ever felt before, intense, gripping, terrifying. I tried to breathe, but no air came in. My vision blurred, and suddenly, everything around me slowed down. The cars, the buildings, the people on the sidewalks, it was as if the entire world had shifted into slow motion. I don't remember the exact moment I lost control of the car, but I remember the screech of tires, the sickening impact, and then nothing. The next thing I knew, I was lying on the pavement, staring up at the sky. I could hear distant voices, sirens wailing, people shouting, but none of it felt real. As I lay there, something strange happened. The pain faded, replaced by an overwhelming calm. It was as if all the burdens, all the worries I had carried, simply melted away. I wasn't scared anymore. I wasn't even sure I was still alive. That's when I realized I was dying. At first, I didn't understand what was happening. One moment I was lying on the ground, feeling my body weaken. The next, I was above it, floating. I could see everything, the paramedics rushing toward me, a woman crying nearby, my own lifeless body lying on the pavement. But I felt no fear, no panic, just a strange sense of detachment, as though I were watching a scene from a movie. I tried to call out to the people below, but no sound came out. I was weightless, drifting farther and farther away. Then I felt it, something pulling me, not physically but spiritually. An unseen force was guiding me upward. I had no control over it, but I didn't resist. A deep, profound peace washed over me. More peace than I had ever known. Then, in the distance, a light appeared. Faint at first, but growing brighter and brighter. It wasn't like any light I had ever seen before. Not harsh, not blinding. It was warm, inviting, like it was calling me home. I moved toward it effortlessly, as if I were being drawn in. With each passing moment, the world I had known faded away. The city noises, the voices, they all disappeared. All that remained was the light and an overwhelming love that wrapped around me like a soft embrace. Just as I was about to step fully into the light, I heard a voice. It wasn't loud, but it carried weight, resonating deep within my soul. It's not your time yet. The voice was familiar, but I couldn't quite place it. Then, in an instant, everything shifted, and I found myself in a place I couldn't describe. It wasn't Earth, but it wasn't entirely unfamiliar either. It felt like a space between two worlds. And that's when I saw him. The moment I stepped into the light, everything changed. I was no longer floating. no longer a distant observer. I was there, standing in a place that felt both unknown and deeply familiar. It was bright, but not in a way that hurt my mind. I was crossing over. Strange familiarity, as though I had known them long ago. With every step I felt lighter, as if all the weight I had, and an unfathomable power. But there was no condemnation in his eyes. I was no longer in that place. Instead, I found something profound. Some vast, magnificent, glowing with a gold. The vision shifted again. I saw steady, unwavering. As I stepped forward, something astonishing caught my eye. The tunnel wasn't empty. Lining both sides, shadowy figures stood watching me, their forms shimmering like ripples of pure energy. I couldn't make out their faces, but deep inside, I knew who they were. They were souls, people who had passed on before me. Some carried a strange familiarity, as though I had known them long ago in another time, while others were unknown to me. They didn't speak in words, yet I could hear them, not with my ears, but with my spirit. Their voices, though silent, wrapped around me like a warm embrace. They welcomed me, reassured me, let me know I was safe. It was the most profound peace I had ever known. I kept moving forward, drawn deeper into the tunnel. With every step I felt lighter, as if all the weight I had carried in life was dissolving, vanishing into the void. Then, at the very end of the tunnel, I saw him. A figure unlike any I had ever seen before stood waiting for me. He radiated light, not just surrounding him, but pouring from within him, a brilliance so pure, it illuminated everything. His presence was overwhelming, a fusion of love, peace, and an unfathomable power. In that instant, I knew beyond any doubt. I was standing before Jesus. I couldn't move, I couldn't speak. All I could do was feel, and what I felt was indescribable. His gaze met mine, and in that single moment, I saw my entire life unfold before me. Every moment, every choice, every mistake, every act of kindness, it was all there, displayed before him. But there was no condemnation in his eyes, only deep, endless understanding. Then he spoke, and his voice was both thunder and a whisper at the same time. "You are not here by accident, Mary." I wanted to ask why I was here, what this all meant. But before I could utter a word, he lifted his hand. And in an instant, everything changed. The tunnel was gone. I was no longer in that place. Instead, I found myself standing somewhere unfamiliar, yet somehow it felt like I had always known it. That's when he revealed the truth to me. A truth about Black people. A truth that would forever change how I saw the world. I stood frozen in awe as Jesus extended his hand toward me. His eyes held a depth of wisdom I couldn't begin to comprehend. And in that moment I knew I was about to witness something profound, something hidden for far too long. Without a word, the space around me shifted, the tunnel disappeared, and I stood in an endless expanse. It was neither earth nor heaven, but something in between. A place where divine truths were unveiled. Before me, images began to take shape, flowing like living paintings crafted from pure light and energy. The first thing I saw was Africa. Vast, magnificent, glowing with a golden radiance. I saw ancient cities, powerful civilizations, and people brimming with wisdom, resilience, and spiritual strength. They were not broken. They were not weak. They were chosen. Jesus spoke, and his voice resonated through my very soul. "The world has lied about them," he said. "They are not who they have been led to believe. They were given gifts, power, and knowledge that others tried to erase." The vision shifted again. I saw chains, ships, people being torn from their homeland. I saw suffering, unbearable pain, generations being told they were less than what they truly were. And then, something even more startling appeared before me. I saw spiritual forces at work, unseen yet ever present, deliberately keeping the truth hidden. Jesus turned to me, his expression steady, unwavering. The oppression was never just physical, he said. It was spiritual, because if they ever remembered who they truly are and told they were nothing, were beginning to remember who they... Jesus lifted his hand, drawing me deeper. Prophets, leaders, and warriors, men to place. The relentless efforts to strip away must remember, Jesus continued, in that moment their spiritual might. It was a sight unreal awakening. I gasped, superiority over another. It was... No! I cried out. The of hospital machines enveloped me, doctors and nurse lights too brilliant, the voices around me excessively. The time of revelation has begun. They shall rise again. My eyes brimmed with tears as I experienced a depth of feeling I had never known. The truth had been concealed, but not for eternity. It was emerging into the light. The visions persisted, relentless and unyielding. Once more, Jesus lifted his hand, drawing me deeper into the unfolding revelation. I witnessed an era long before the chains of slavery, before colonization and oppression. A time when black people possessed a spiritual wisdom so potent it defied mere words. They understood the profound bond between heaven and earth, between spirit and the tangible world. This divine wisdom had been handed down through the ages. I saw prophets, leaders, and warriors, men and women alike, engaging in direct communion with God. They needed no intermediaries. They could speak to the heavens themselves. Jesus met my gaze, his eyes filled with both sorrow and love. This is why they were targeted, he explained. For those who wield power, fear those who carry divine wisdom. My mind raced as everything suddenly fell into place. The relentless efforts to strip away their culture, their faith, their very identity were not solely about control. They were an attempt to sever their connection to the truth. Yet as I watched, something astonishing unfolded. Despite enduring oppression and generations of being told they were nothing, their spirit remained unbroken. Their power endured, a force that could never be destroyed. That is why they must remember, Jesus continued. In that moment, I realized it wasn't about hate or division. It was about restoration. A world built on lies now saw the rising of the truth. The vision shifted again, this time revealing a great awakening. People from every nation, especially black people, stood up, rediscovering who they truly were. I saw them shatter the mental chains that bound them and reclaim their spiritual might. It was a sight unlike anything I had ever witnessed. Though the world had attempted to erase them, they stepped boldly into the light of truth. And as they did, something miraculous occurred. The very fabric of the world began to change. Jesus turned to me once more. The prophecy is unfolding, he said. They will lead the world into a new era of spiritual awakening. I gasped in astonishment. Was this why I was being shown these things? Was I meant to share this message? Yes, Jesus answered as if reading my thoughts. You must tell them that the world is transforming and that they need to know the truth. Overwhelmed by the revelations, I sank to my knees. It transcended the matters of race. It was about identity, purpose, and destiny. This was not a declaration of one group's superiority over another. It was a call to restore balance and unveil the truth hidden for centuries. They were chosen, Jesus said, but so were many others. It is time for all my children to remember who they are. Suddenly, everything around me began to fade, the light, the visions, even Jesus himself. I felt myself being pulled back as if an unseen force was dragging me away from that heavenly realm. No, I cried out. I don't want to go back. Jesus smiled, though his eyes bore a solemn intensity. You must, he insisted. The world needs your voice. I wanted to protest, but before I could speak, a sudden jolt, like a burst of electricity, struck me, and I gasped for air. My eyes flew open. I was back. The steady beeping of hospital machines enveloped me. Doctors and nurses rushed to my side. I felt my heart pounding and my lungs struggling for every breath. I was alive. Yet, I was not the same person who had left. I had witnessed things that changed me forever. I had spoken with Jesus. I had seen the truth. I knew my life would never be the same. When I awoke in the hospital, everything felt different. The air was heavier, the lights too brilliant, the voices around me excessively loud. Though I was alive, I no longer felt like I had been shown the truth, and now I was back in possibly explain what I had seen. Who would believe? One sleepless night I found myself stares met with doubt. I had gathered in. It was real. I pressed on. Maybe it's symbolic, you know. Your mind processed. I had been entrusted with this message for a purpose, replaying every detail of what I had seen. I had spoken with Jesus. I had been shown the truth, and now I was back in a world that remained oblivious. For days, I barely uttered a word. I could see the worry in my family's eyes, hear their hushed whispers when they thought I wasn't listening. They believed I was in shock, traumatized by the accident. Perhaps I was, but not for the reasons they assumed. I was grappling with something far greater than myself. How could I possibly explain what I had seen? Who would believe me? I tried to dismiss it as nothing more than a dream, a hallucination triggered by my near-death experience. But deep down, I knew better. It wasn't a dream. It was real. And the longer I remained silent, the heavier the burden became. The weight of what I knew, of what had been revealed to me, pressed upon me like an inescapable force. One sleepless night I found myself staring out the window at the flickering city lights. And that's when I heard the voice again. A quiet whisper urged, "Speak." I whipped around, yet found no one, though deep within I understood its meaning. I couldn't keep this revelation to myself. I had to share it. But where to start? With that very first insight. The moment I attempted to speak of my experience, I was met with doubt. I had gathered my dearest friends and family, eager to recount what I had witnessed, what Jesus had revealed about the hidden spiritual power of Black people. But as soon as I began, I saw uncertainty flicker in their eyes. "You were in an accident, Mary," my sister murmured gently, as if suggesting my mind was playing tricks on me. "No," I interrupted. "It wasn't a dream. It wasn't mere imagination. It was real." I pressed on, telling them everything. The tunnel where I met Jesus, the revelation of Black people's divine connection. I spoke with fiery passion and unwavering conviction, hoping my words would resonate. Yet when I finished, only silence met me, broken by my best friend's hesitant throat clear and a forced smile. "That's interesting," she ventured. "Maybe it's symbolic, you know, your mind processing everything going on." My heart sank with each word. They didn't truly believe me. I tried again, with church members, acquaintances, even strangers online. Again and again, I faced the same reactions. Some dismissed it as a hallucination, others urged me to keep silent, and a few even grew angry, accusing me of pushing an agenda. It was both frustrating and painful. I had been entrusted with this message for a purpose, yet no one wanted to hear it. Then, one lonely night, as I sat questioning whether to abandon my quest, I heard that familiar voice once more. "Keep speaking." I knew then that I couldn't give up. But one night, something undeniable saw it. A shadow drifting across and resistance silenced me. Retreat. I made my decision. I began writing. This isn't just about me. It's about it. I shared my testimony online. Strange calls from unknown numbers flooded my phone with heavy, wordless breaths. At first, I brushed it off as paranoia, but one night, something undeniable occurred. I had just recorded a message detailing how black people had been spiritually oppressed for centuries. As I prepared to upload it, my computer screen flickered, and in an instant, the entire video was gone. I searched everywhere, but it had vanished without a trace. A chill ran down my spine as I scanned my apartment, suddenly feeling that I was not alone. That's when I saw it. A shadow drifting across my living room wall. I gasped and spun around, yet found no one there. "Keep speaking," the voice whispered again, this time closer, almost desperate. In that moment, I realized I was up against something far greater than simply sharing a story. It was a spiritual battle. Whatever forces sought to keep this truth hidden were not pleased. I faced a choice. I could let doubt, fear, and resistance silence me, retreating to my old life and pretending it had never happened, or I could fight. I chose to fight. I resolved to continue sharing the message, regardless of the cost, no matter who doubted me or tried to stop me. I remembered that moment with Jesus, how he had looked at me when he revealed the truth about black people. He had chosen me for a reason, and turning away now would be turning my back on him. So I made my decision. I began writing, speaking, and sharing my experience with anyone willing to listen. I didn't care if people laughed or doubted me, or if strange occurrences continued to shadow my every step, because I knew the truth, and it had to be told. If you're reading this now, it means that despite everything, I've kept going, and I need you to do something. Share this message. This isn't just about me. It's about all of us. The world is awakening, the truth is emerging, and it's time for everyone, especially black people, to remember who they truly are. This is only the beginning. At first, it felt as if I were shouting into an endless void. No matter how passionately I spoke or how deeply I clung to the message Jesus had revealed, people still refused to listen. Then, something shifted. I shared my testimony online one day, just as I had so many times before. But this time, it exploded. I can't say for sure what set this post apart. Perhaps it was the way I expressed it. Maybe it was the mounting spiritual unrest in the world. Or perhaps finally the moment had arrived for the truth to be heard. Within hours, thousands were commenting, sharing everyone at once. It was about planting seeds. Scholars, historians, spiritual leaders, threats, not only from random online trolls. Now, I was living it, better than ever. One night, but Jesus, summoning every bit of courage we were taught, they wrote. "Tell me more," became the recurring plea from those beginning to awaken. That's when I realized it wasn't about convincing everyone at once. It was about planting seeds. Not everyone would believe immediately, and some might never believe at all. But those ready to hear, they listened. The revelation Jesus had shown me was no longer mine alone to bear. Others began to feel it, see it, and recognize the truth. As more voices joined in, something incredible happened. Connections started forming. Scholars, historians, spiritual leaders, even those who had never believed in God, all began to come together. The visions I had seen were fragments of a larger truth that many of us shared, and now we were piecing them together. Yet, as the message spread, the resistance grew stronger. It wasn't just doubt anymore. Something darker was fighting against me, against all of us. I started receiving threats, not only from random online trolls, but from people who seemed to know intimate details about me. Details they had no way of knowing. My emails were hacked, my videos vanished, my posts disappeared without warning. One night, I received an anonymous message. "Stop speaking. This is bigger than you understand." A chill raced down my spine. I had read about spiritual warfare before, but now I was living it. Black people have been spiritually oppressed for centuries, and now forces were working overtime to silence the truth. This wasn't merely about history or injustice. It was a battle for souls. And it was happening right now. The forces that had enslaved, erased, and manipulated the history of black people weren't human. They were spiritual. And now that the truth was emerging, they were fighting back harder than ever. One night, I awoke to an apartment filled with the thickest darkness I had ever known. It wasn't simply the absence of light, it was a presence, a force. Then I saw it, a shadow, standing silently at the foot of my bed. It didn't move or speak, yet I felt its intent. It wanted me to stop. I longed to scream or run, but I was paralyzed with fear. Then I remembered Jesus. Summoning every bit of courage, I whispered in his name, "Leave." Instantly, the shadow dissolved. The room lightened, the darkness broke, and I understood. This wasn't just about spreading a message. It was a fight for the souls of millions. After all I had experienced, meeting Jesus, but also a great war. Not people, once shattered and silenced, and wielded fear to keep souls bound. Why is this happening? His battle has begun, Jesus declared, but by lost in distractions, squabbling over politics either. It felt as if my spirit had been drawn into another realm, a timeless place. There I was shown the future, a great awakening, but also a great war. Not merely a war between nations, but a spiritual battle. The forces that had enslaved minds and spirits for centuries were not going to relent. They were preparing to fight. Their weapons were not bullets or bombs, they were lies, deception, and control. I witnessed people awakening to their inner power, embracing their divine identity, and breaking free from generations of manipulation. I saw black people, once shattered and silenced, rise with an authority that shook the earth. They reclaimed their ancient wisdom, their spiritual gifts, and their connection to God. Yet, even as this resurgence unfolded, I also saw the enemy retaliate. The media, governments, and even some religious leaders would stop at nothing to prevent the truth from spreading. They manufactured distractions, incited division, and wielded fear to keep souls bound in spiritual chains. Then I beheld a vision that made my heart stop. A wave of devastation unlike anything the world had ever witnessed. A torrent of floods, raging fires, and earthquakes in places that had never known such fury. I saw cities crumbling, people fleeing, the very world crying out for mercy. I turned to Jesus, who stood beside me, and asked, "Why is this happening?" His gaze, filled with both sorrow and strength, met mine as he said, "The world must be shaken before it can be restored." Then he revealed yet another vision. After the chaos, after the suffering and destruction, a new world began to emerge. A world where people would no longer be enslaved by lies, where the truth of their being could no longer be hidden. "The final battle has begun," Jesus declared, but by victory belongs to those who walk in truth. And in an instant I found myself back in my room, gasping for air, trembling, my heart racing. I had seen what was coming and I had no choice but to prepare. The weight of that vision was too immense to ignore. The world was hurtling toward a spiritual war, and most people remained oblivious, lost in distractions, squabbling over politics, chasing wealth, living in fear, while the true battle raged unseen. I began to speak louder. I shared what I had seen, what Jesus had revealed to me. Some listened, many did not. I came to a heartbreaking realization. Some by fear, some will succumb to deception. It is now in your hands. I cannot say how many. Something greater. Because you were, and the enemy will sow doubt. But deep within, the awakening is happening. and every soul must choose. Will you fight for the truth or remain in the shadows? Jesus warned me that not everyone would survive what's coming. Some will be consumed by fear, some will succumb to deception. But those who stand in faith, who embrace their divine power, will rise like warriors. I may not know why Jesus chose me to bear this message, but I cannot stop now. The forces trying to silence me grow ever stronger, yet so does my faith. If you are reading these words, know that it is no accident. You were meant to hear this, meant to awaken. The choice is now in your hands. I cannot say how many more times I will be able to speak before forces try to silence me again. But before I go, understand this. This is not just my story, it is yours. The truth is rising to the surface, whether the world is ready or not. The spiritual battle is already underway, and you have a role to play. Perhaps you have felt it. The sense that something is off in the world, that you were destined for something greater. Because you are part of this awakening. But awakening is not easy. It demands courage, it calls for faith. It requires stepping out of fear and into your divine power. Jesus did not reveal these truths to me so I could keep them hidden. He showed them to me so I could share them with you. Now I ask, will you accept the truth or will you turn away as if you never saw it? The world will try to distract you, and the enemy will sow doubt, but deep within, your soul already knows the truth. This is your moment. Step into your power, awaken, and when you do, help others to awaken as well. For once the veil is lifted, there is no going back. The time is now. Choose wisely.